Opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers. And folks, it is offensive line week. It's time for the big boys. I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about a lot of scummer scouting, but we have a jam-packed show for you today because we're not just doing offensive tackles. We're doing everybody. We're ranking the offensive tackles and we are ranking the interior offensive linemen, 5 for each. So you got to keep up. All right. We hit you with quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. We got you guys ready. The stamina is there. You're in shape. Now we're hitting you with 2 back-to-backs, 5 and 5. Connor, are you ready for this jam-packed episode, my friend?
I'm ready to go. This is obviously now we're officially in the weeds of summer scouting. Quarterbacks, anybody could talk about them. I think every person in the country that covers football knows about Bryce and CJ by now. And even Tyler Van Dyke's been a big name out there. Running backs, you got a star in Bijan Robinson. Wide receivers, we see these guys play because they produce as sophomores. Tight end class was actually a lot of fun. I saw a lot of people on both sides of our rankings in the comments on PFF as well. A lot of people having fun with the Meyer versus Gilbert debate.
Right.
Now we get into the nitty-gritty.
Yep. This is where it is. This is where football starts. This is what they say up front in the trenches. And we're going to kind of give you the same format again, going from 5 to 1. If you're new to the show, we'll start with offensive tackles. So we won't like do them at the same time. We'll start first half of the show. We'll go offensive tackle ranking. Second half of the show, we'll go interior offensive linemen. And interior offensive linemen, I combine centers and guards. Connor, you separate them a little bit more. I think you keep them a little bit more pure, like who you think is going to be a center, who you think is going to be a guard. So we can obviously dive into all of that once we get to the interior offensive line rankings. But offensive tackles, let's just start right off the bat. Your number 5 offensive tackle in college football right now for the 2023 NFL draft. Who is it?
It is Javon Foster from Missouri, a guy that was a starter at
Foster this high. Okay.
Foster at 5. Well, let's start with a caveat of this. One, there was about 5 guys I could have put at this spot pretty comfortably because this doesn't look like a very deep tackle class right now. Maybe that changes after the season. We have been spoiled over the last couple of years of good offensive line classes.
Very, yes.
I think the tides are turning. That is not to say this is a bad draft. I actually think getting now through all of the offensive positions of summer scouting, this could be a really good draft. The offensive line class, the best way to put it, is not established right now. And that left the number 5 spot kind of wide open for a guy that has a lot of work to do in his game still. But I think when he finally got the chance, Foster, to start at Missouri last year as a left tackle, because he's already a redshirt senior right now. So he had to wait a couple of years.
Been a while for him.
Yeah, he had to wait a couple of years. First year starter in 2021, all 13 games at left tackle. Easy mover in the run game with smart angles to his assignments. And then you kind of get right into the things that I'm concerned about. So that's scouting, folks. I mean, somebody needs to be in the 5th spot. Foster, it's a good sign for him that he is. But I really wrote down a couple good things and then got right into needs to be careful giving the open doorway to inside move in pass pro. Can get caught ducking his head in pass pro. Needs to improve his overall core strength. When you start, playing like that, ducking your head a little bit, it's the lack of overall confidence in that core strength to stay upright. And then needs to limit penalties. He had 4 in 2021. That's a pretty high mark compared to the rest of the guys we're going to talk about today. So Foster, for me, right now, if I was writing a real NFL scouting report, is somebody I would project as potentially a swing tackle at the next level, a guy that is depth for you. I don't project him as a surefire starter. I was telling Trevor before the show started, outside of the top 2 or 3 guys on each list, tackles and interior offensive line, I wouldn't have these guys even in the second round right now. So there's a lot of developing here. But with Foster, I saw things that I really like, Trev. He's 6'5", 320. He's got a thick frame. I thought he held his own in the SEC last year as a first-year starter. There was never a time where I'm like, man, he's getting his ass kicked right now on a program that doesn't go out there and beat everyone up all the time. I thought he held his own, but there are plenty of things to clean up. So Foster came in as my 5th tackle on a bit of a debate between guys like, well, I won't get into it because I don't want to give away 1 through 4. We'll finish with that. But there was 4 guys that pretty much had a shot at this ranking. That's how open it was before we jump into a different tier.
Okay, see, now I'm looking forward to when we get past our 1 through 5 because I want to hear. I think I can actually, everybody listening, we could probably figure out who those 4 guys are going to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that
have
much of a secret.
We have an idea. No, I'm talking about the guys that you had like tied for fifth, like the guys that did make the list. I'm intrigued on that because I know you're going to name the guys that are in front of them. It sounds like, see, I had Foster much lower. I had, well, much lower. I didn't have him that much.
Where'd you have him? How much lower can you get?
No, I have him 8th. So I have him 8th for me, which I guess going off of what you said, where it's kind of, you've got 4 guys that could have all been competing for number 5. That's not really that low.
And none of them I thought were, I'm like, this guy's a starter at the NFL level right now.
Okay, so you say that, and I do agree with you, but it sounds like I'm a little bit higher on the offensive tackle class than you are. And I'm interested to see kind of what you think of how I'm viewing some of these players.
Yep.
And whether or not even the guys that I make here, the fringe of my top 5 are in your top 5, what you believe in them. So like I said, I had Foster at 8. And I agree with a lot of what you said. It's just a little bit concerning that obviously it took him this long to be a starter. You don't want to hold too much against him because in his lone year as a starter, he did play well.
He played really well. Yeah.
I am much more of the thinking that, all right, not everybody is destined to be really good at a young age. Not everybody is destined to come in at 18, 19 and be the best version of themselves as a football player. Sometimes it does take these guys a little bit longer. And yeah, okay, maybe you're drafting them when they're 23 or 24 as opposed to 20 or 21, but that's okay if you're still getting a good football player. Age metrics certainly go into things, but it's not, to me, a massive piece of the pie, if you will. It's something to consider. But again, if you're getting yourself a good prospect, whether it's an offensive tackle or elsewhere, I'm okay with that. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. You mentioned it. There were a lot of things in his tape that I saw where, whether it was balance or technique or learning how to handle different moves, if guys crossing his face or, like you said, going inside, whatever it was, that felt like it was, you clearly are a first-year starter. And I don't mean that to
in
say,
the SEC.
Right. And that's just, you're going up against really good pass rushers, and this is your first year. So the fact that he is back again this year to get another year of tape, I think will be really advantageous for him. And we'll see if he continues that really good play and even elevate it past that as a second-year guy. My number five on my list, BYU's Blake Freeland.
Okay.
Do you have Blake in your top 5?
I do.
Okay.
Blake is in my top, and this is the classic Trevor and Connor transition. Blake is at 4 for me.
Okay. All right. So well, I guess we can go a little bit back and forth here. So Blake Freeland is my number 5 guy. 6'8", dude.
Skyscraper.
Massive.
That's what I write down every time I get a tackle like this.
Huge. 6'8", 305 pounds. Okay. Here's a little bit of background on Blake Freeland. 3-star athlete recruit. Wasn't even labeled an offensive tackle. Now, he figured he'd probably be playing somewhere on the line in college football, but he was labeled as a 3-star athlete out of Utah. I can't remember what city he's from. I actually didn't write it down, but I said that he was a recruit from Utah.
Yep.
Came to BYU at 260 pounds. So now, as I just said, he's 305. Came in at 260. Here's his high school journey, okay? 2-year starting quarterback at his high school. His senior season, he played quarterback, he played tight end, he played fullback, he played defensive tackle, he played defensive end. So he didn't even play along the offensive line. He just played
everywhere else.
Positions. He truly took to heart that ATH athlete position as a recruit because he played so much. He was also the 2019 Gatorade Utah Boys Track and Field Athlete of the Year because he won as a thrower. Hat trick of state titles here: shot put, discus, and javelin, which is okay. Of course, you're probably going to want that guy as your high school quarterback. So, man, it's pretty crazy.
Whoa! Don't stop there.
What happened?
State record holder in the javelin.
Oh,
yeah, in his class, state record holder in the javelin.
So the state title wasn't enough. He had to hold the record before.
No, and I don't know if it still stands, but at the time, he set the high school javelin record in the state of Utah in his class.
So it's pretty crazy. I went back and I watched a little bit of his high school recruiting film because, well, I figured it'd be hilarious.
Interesting.
And it absolutely was. They're using him as a 6'7" fullback on wheel routes against linebackers that are like 5'5" because it's high school Utah football. It's
so
just
ridiculous.
It is. It's funny. It was just funny to see him playing at that level, dominating in a variety of different ways. So he goes to BYU. Spent 2 years on the right side of the offensive line before replacing Brady Christensen on the left side back in 2021. Man, he flourished. Only had 5 pressures allowed and 426 pass block snaps that entire first season that he was playing left tackle. And here's my scouting notes on him after watching a handful of games on him. First note, hilariously huge. He is. He's 6'8", man. It's so funny to watch. He looks like a tight end who's just on a good bulking cycle. Like he is eating brownies and peanut butter sandwiches and pizzas, and like he looks like a tight end that just is on a serious bulk cycle right now. Incredibly impressive athlete for a player who is 6'8". I thought he moved so well. A lot of times when you get these guys that are taller, they lack flexibility, they lack quickness, they lack the ability to get out of that stance and really get into their opponents. They lack the ability to look comfortable in the open field just because they're so huge they don't really know what to do. That doesn't exist with this dude. He is a true athlete playing offensive tackle, fires off the line of scrimmage. He's light on his feet. He's fast on the hoof, man. He is what you would want out of a player of his background, and it's so unique. I think that he's a really, really nice tackle prospect. Now, the weaknesses, simply put, he is almost too big. Yeah, he's got a hunch over. He's got a hunch down just to get a good contact angle with defensive linemen. Natural leverage for this dude, it's pretty non-existent, and that's not a knock on him. It just is what it is. He's 6'8". Not that he can't get under certain players, but it's a lot more work for him to do so. Often requires him to, like I said, hunch over, which anytime you do that, anytime you're hunched over as a trench player, you're giving up core strength, you're giving up balance, things like that. But man, I wanted to highlight those weaknesses just to let people know that they do exist in his game. But I was pleasantly surprised by what I saw. He looks poised. He looks technically sound. He looks in control. The hand usage is great. He's not afraid to dictate the point of attack, even though he's a little bit taller, a little bit skinnier. He doesn't mind getting up in guys' faces, and he does it pretty well. I was really impressed with the kind of athlete that he was and the smooth mover that he was for the player of his size. And so I know you got him at number 4, so you could kind of just take it away with your notes there, but I really, really liked this prospect, and especially the ball of clay that you would think a 6'8", 300-pound offensive lineman would be.
Yeah, the last guy I remember evaluating in this mold was Stone Forsythe from Florida. So, and I thought Freeland, because Stone was 6'9", Freeland 6'8", true skyscraper tackles. They don't come around this often where they're legitimate prospects. And Freeland, to me, is already ahead of where Stone was when he came out as a pass protector. I thought you kind of nailed it, Trevor. I kind of agreed with most of what you said, where he just played very in control. He's very technically sound in pass protection. He does move very well for 6'8". It's not a clunky 6'8". It's an athletic 6'8".
Yeah.
He's kind of built like a power forward out there, where he's got the good feet under the glass, and I thought that really shone in pass pro. Now, with guys like this, it's just really hard for them to ever be more than average in the run game. It's just the leverage is very difficult. Yeah. He does move very well for his size, so he's not giving up anything in zone. But it's just, and I'm thinking of the NFL, because who BYU plays, and it's no slight on BYU, they play plenty of capable defenses, but he's not going out there and you're like, oh, let me watch Blake Freeland versus a Will Anderson every other week, right? Like, you're just never, like, you're just not going to see that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I kind of know the answer to that anyway. It's always going to be a tough battle for him to get leverage in the run game consistently. But man, he's so good in pass pro that he's got a legitimate shot to develop into a starter at the next level, because he is a rare ascending younger talent at BYU. He's not a 26-year-old kind of guy. This is a fourth-year junior that's played a lot of football on both sides of the offensive line. Right tackle, because they had Brady Christensen there, and now has moved over to left tackle. And once again, that really excellent background, not just the javelin record and the track records, and dad playing for BYU in the 90s on the football team. I mean, there's a lot of bloodlines there. So Yeah, Freeland came in at 4 for me. I really liked what I saw from him and was just really impressed with where he is as a pass protector, all things considered. But he's played a lot of ball, and he's shown significant improvement over time where I'm excited to see what he has this year.
It's so funny. You mentioned the power forward thing, and like the basketball comparisons are natural. Everyone's going to make them. He played basketball in high school, but an article that I was reading about him said, but like basketball was never like he was never really thinking about basketball.
When you're 6'8" in high school, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, but I'm like, why the hell not? Like, but what do you mean? What do you mean basketball was never like an option? You're 6'8". He was playing so many different sides of the ball, and like I said, he was 260 when he got to BYU. So it's not like he was this like overinflated basketball player. He was just probably really good. Maybe he didn't have a jump shot.
Dude, these 6'8" guys now in college can all shoot in the NBA in college.
Oh, maybe he couldn't shoot.
Maybe he can't shoot. It happens.
Oh, no.
No hate here.
All right, whenever Blake Freeland comes through in the draft, which is probably going to be this year, we got to at least ask him. Maybe one of us has got to ask him at the combine. Just be like, all right,
do you have a jump shot?
Can you shoot at all whatsoever? Is that where it all went wrong for you? Thankfully, NFL is very thankful.
Yeah, I was gonna say it all went right.
It is funny how good this guy is at his size. I was very pleasantly surprised. That was a very fun watch for me. Number 4, since you mentioned your number 4, I'll just go to my number 4. This is Broderick Jones. This is the Georgia offensive tackle, redshirt sophomore, former 5-star recruit, 6'4", 315 pounds. I'm gonna guess he's on your list, Connor.
Yeah, good guess. We'll get there.
Okay, all right. So we're getting there. 5-star offensive tackle, but to this point, he's only started in 4 games in his career. Now, Georgia, good football program, not bad, got a lot of talent, so understandable. But all 4 of his starts came at left tackle last season. He's got 463 snaps. I'll start with the scouting report on him. Massive dude. Base is very wide, allows him to look imposing out of his stance. When you look at him on the left side of that offensive line, you just look like you're not going to have a good time if you're lining up against him. Like he looks like he is about to UFC put some pain on you. Because
looks like a movie character.
Dude, he does. He
looks
his
like
body,
an offensive tackle casted for a movie.
He is, what did I say his weight was? What was that? 315. 315. And he's got the stance where the hand's not in the ground. The hands are like the elbows are on the knees. So it's almost like he's in a fighter's stance. Like he is about to like lunge at you and put you in the walls of Jericho or something. But he is such a physically imposing guy when you're looking at him across the offensive line. I mentioned he's very flexible. He's got the wide base. He can sink his hips, and you see that right before he gets out of his stance. Shoulders are very broad. He can engulf smaller pass rushers. If smaller guys get within his shoulders, I mean, it's over. He's not really letting up on those guys. Hands are strong. Upper body seems very strong just in general. Built very well. I think the feet can get a little bit lighter and quicker. And if they do, he has a chance to be really, really good, because that was my big weakness for him. He's a little bit heavy with his feet. It's not terrible, but you could tell he is just a little bit heavy with the feet. He's more power than he is finesse right now because of, I think, that. If he gets lighter, I think it's going to help everything that he struggles with when it comes to mirroring, adjusting to leverage, all that, because that was my biggest, I would say, gripe about him right now, other than just clear lack of reps, lack of starting, which I'd love to see him in a full year of starting, especially in the SEC. There are just times when he'll engage with somebody, he'll get the hands in the right spot, he'll get them between the shoulders, and then all of a sudden, either they might be able to swipe the hand or they might be able to kind of like dip one way or the other, and he's like, whoa, okay. And you watch him in some reps, and he's so strong in his core and his upper body that you go, you should still be able to handle that guy. You should still be able to redirect your weight, re-anchor, get the feet where they need to be. And there are times when guys just get off of the block easier than they should. And I think that comes from the ground up. I think that's because his feet get a little bit heavy on him. And when somebody switches up the leverage, he's not as quick, not as light on the toes to be able to, okay, reset. Now I'm going to anchor. I'm going to sink a little bit. I've still got you. So I think that that's the big area that I think that I need to see him improve on. But overall, imposing is the word I continue to come back to. And he's built perfectly for an offensive tackle. He's an athletic dude, a strong dude. He's got the weight distributed exactly the way that you want it. It's not sloppy at all whatsoever. He's strong, and I do think he's a smart offensive tackle for as little as he has played so far. So excited to see a lot of his tape moving forward this year. Hope it's a fully healthy year because, again, this guy feels like he was built in a lab, if you will. You could see why people gave him that 5-star label. We just got to see more of it on the field. So that's my thoughts on him. He came in at number 4 for me.
I like it. Nice. We will get there on Broderick. So, right. Okay, number 3 for me here as we get into the tackles. This might surprise people when I say it. I kind of really like the tier of my top 3, but this is Peter Skoronski here from Northwestern, who it's pretty simple as this. This was kind of something I used for Sauce Gardner versus Stingley at the end of last year, but there is football left for these guys. Skoronski has the best film library of any eligible tackle in the draft right now. Easily. It's not, if you're not projecting, which we are on summer scouting, there's no argument to be had that Skoronski isn't the best tackle prospect in the draft. Film-wise today, he is the best. He has put out the best film. He has played the best football. Where it's going to be interesting for Skoronski is he might go through a little bit of the classic. Does he have the length? Does he have the typical measurables to be a left tackle? Probably going to be a similar conversation around him compared to what we saw with not his teammate Rashawn Slater. I know it's in a lot of people's heads right now. Maybe Jonah Williams. I know a lot of teams did not evaluate Jonah Williams as a tackle. The Bengals took him as a tackle. I really liked Jonah Williams as a tackle, but that was something that a lot of teams looked at.
That's a good shout out. It's a
really good year. So Jonah is 6'4", 305. Skoronski right now is 6'4", 294. That is not a weight that offensive tackles in the NFL play at, but this is a young guy. He's got time to gain more weight. Let's get right into it. Stepped in and started as a freshman in 2019 after Rashawn Slater opted out.
Yep.
Generates power from a thick lower half and can drive defenders off the ball consistently. Eager to find work and block through the play. Something I really, really liked on the coach's film with him. Plays with good pad level consistently and leverage, but needs to improve his overall balance. When they have him pull, he gets to his spots and eats up linebackers. That's something to keep in mind when we do go through the conversation of if teams like him as a guard, this guy can be an absolute weapon as a puller. When he gets the chance to do that at the tackle spot, he looks great doing it. He devours linebackers. Even experience in both zone and gap blocking schemes. Northwestern pretty balanced in terms of their rushing attack. 16.4% impact run blocking in 2021. That's a good number. That means on his run blocking attempts, about almost 1 out of 5 or a little less than 1 out of 5 are big-time blocks. He's making a difference in the play, finishing some of those blocks. Hutchinson and Ajabo really couldn't get much going against him in 2021. That means something to me because those are NFL players.
Right.
Obviously, Hutchinson was a top 3 pick. Obviously, Ajabo without the injury would have been a top 15 or top 20 pick. So that really meant something as well. Bottom line was there will be question about his length in pass pro to stick at tackle. So Skoronski, to me, if the draft was today, is the best offensive lineman. I think he would play guard if he was drafted today to play in the NFL. I think he has time to silence the doubters of him being a long-term tackle, much like Slater did, much like Jonah Williams did. I am not the arm length police when it comes to scouting. Mm-hmm. I don't cry, move guys to guard every year. I don't really do it very often at all. So I hope Skoronski, when I'm all done with his evaluation at the end of this season, ends up a tackle if that's where he wants to play. Keep in mind, though, he, coming out of high school, I'm pretty sure just played everywhere. And it was an emergency that he played tackle at Northwestern because Slater opted out. So this is a guy that was thrown into the tackle spot.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
Excelled at tackle, and now is playing tackle. So I don't know if he's going to be one of those guys that's like, I'll only play tackle. Some guys are like that. I don't get that vibe from this dude. I think he just wants to start and make an impact on the offensive line. Where NFL teams dictate that will be interesting. But Trevor, I love this player. He has first-round film. He's a really, really good player, and he would... fingers crossed this doesn't happen, he would have to get hurt this year to not go in the first round. Like, he's the only guy that we're going to talk about today that I will say that with. He's the only closest thing to a sure thing that will be on the show for me today.
So his recruiting profile has him listed as a center.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
this dude was not supposed to be a tackle.
Okay, so he was recruited as an interior offensive lineman, and then he was playing offensive tackle, and he just happens to be really good at it, which actually goes along with my scouting report on him. I'm not going to give it all away because he is a lot further up the list for me.
Sure.
But, it's my list is very funny because I'll tell you, I guess I'll just say this now. I watched Peter Skoronski first. And
me too.
I was
everyone.
I was like, this dude's so clean. Like, I love what this dude is as an offensive lineman. I think he could play all 5 spots in the offensive line. I didn't even know he played center before. And I had written down, I was like, I bet this guy could play all 5 spots on the offensive line. I really think that. And I noticed the same deficiencies that you did. So I said to myself, okay, there's no way I'm going to have this dude as my top offensive tackle. And I do. But we'll get to that.
I had a feeling.
We will get to that in, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is.
He's the best one out of all of them. But once again,
right now he is.
There's a little projecting here.
I have very interesting, probably conflicting methods with how I ranked my offensive tackles, but I am who I am, and that's all I can be. So
who's number 3?
My number 3 guy is Paris Johnson Jr., the Ohio State offensive lineman. Okay, played on the interior this past year, 6'6", 315 pounds. Look, you watch a handful of games on this guy, and you go, okay, this is an offensive tackle who it just happens to be playing interior offensive line. Like, they clearly needed him to play at the guard spot, and that's what the situation was. He's a 5-star offensive tackle prospect from Cincinnati, Ohio. Freshman season, he was backing up at right tackle for Ohio State. Sophomore season, he's starting at right guard, and now he is the starting left tackle. So he's officially the starting left tackle. Another thing that I loved about him, he has already launched a foundation called the Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation, which is helping military veterans and student athletes across the country to areas of life that he's very passionate about. He's already very heavily involved in that, and wanted to get that off the ground when a lot of the NIL stuff started. And he just seems like an awesome dude, man. He seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders. I loved reading about that. Definitely wanted to give him a shout out there because I thought that was a really, really cool part of his story as I was looking up some background information to him. So, like I said, he's playing at right guard in the film that you're watching if you're watching him this summer. But
we all know what's coming.
The most important film for him is upcoming this season. It's going to be him playing at left tackle. So some traits that I wrote down: good combination of athleticism and size for the position. When I say that, I even mean offensive tackle, not just as an interior player. He's always looking for work on the inside, which I loved. I love that awareness that I saw from him. Good awareness of where pressure's coming from. Clearly one of the better moving players along the interior. Skill set is best suited for offensive tackle. So excited to see him there at that spot this year. With the weakness for his scouting reporter, skills are kind of tough to judge because he is straight up built more like an offensive tackle. He plays more like an offensive tackle.
That's true.
But all of his snaps were at guard. And so it's like you're kind of watching this guy fight this inner battle between doing what he is supposed to be doing in a style in which he's supposed to be playing interior offensive line, knowing damn well that some of his best assets, his movement skills, his longer arms, everything, like that's not being utilized nearly as much as it could have been at offensive tackle. So I've got him at number 3. I think there's going to be a lot of people who have him maybe even as their top guy, number 2 guy, whatever. And I'm not going to push back too hard on that. I don't know if I want to call myself a coward for it, but I've just got to see it at left tackle. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to see it at left tackle. He's got all the tools. I like just what he was as an offensive lineman last year, but I'll just ask you, do you have him at number 1?
I have him at number 2.
Okay. So you got him at number 2. Like I said, I think there's a lot of people that are going to have him at number 2, number 1. And those people, I don't have a problem with it. They're just more comfortable with the projection than I am. And I was just like, you know what? I already put Arik Gilbert as my number 1 tight end. So let me back off on the full
Yeah, full
on,
send.
the full on
Yeah, you really
projections for the rankings. Maybe this is me hedging my bets, but this is a really good offensive line prospect, and he's playing his real position. He's home this year, so that's where we're really going to see the tape of him.
So I had him at number 2, and I almost had him at number 1 to piggyback off of what you said.
Who do you have at number 1?
We'll get there.
Oh, you got okay. You got. All right,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
I know.
So Paris Johnson Jr. was awesome. Let me just call it like I see it, man. Like he easily could have been number 1 for me. Like I said, I have Skoronski and him and my number 1 guy in the same tier right now. With a little bit more meat on the bone, I think, for Paris and my number 1 guy than Skoronski. Listed 6'6", 315, recruited as a tackle. This is what he's supposed to be. Like you said, Trevor, he's just so damn talented. They threw him on the line and like, yeah, we're gonna use you right now, and you're gonna play right guard. And he did a really good job considering he is not a guard. So, former 5-star and top-ranked player in the state of Ohio. Great build with length and raw power. I did think in pass pro, he has the little bit of the Ekwonu habit of stopping his feet when he throws his hands, which is something that is very coachable and something that Ekwonu got significantly better at from sophomore year to junior year, where I'm hoping for Paris that's something that happens with him. And maybe that's something that in his kick slides and his, getting into his pass sets, he's just more natural at tackle. He's not a guard. It's different. Pass protecting a guard is different than pass protecting a tackle. So I wrote that like in pencil, where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be a real issue. It is right now in the few times he gets beat inside, which wasn't a ton. So I think he's going to be okay. He's a killer in the run game. Grip strength, power, demeanor, leg drive. He's got it all. He kills people in the run game. And that's, to me, what stood out with him on film. 19.7% impact run blocking in 2021. That's an ass-kicking number. Climbs to the second level and with acceleration and just erases linebackers consistently. Ohio State, when you watch Travion Henderson, some of these big-time runs, Paris Johnson was right in the middle of all of them. I thought he was better than both their offensive linemen that got drafted last year, honestly. He really was. It's the classic case of, and I respect Ohio State for doing this. They're obviously a great program. This is the dude, and they could have taken one of the veterans out and said, hey, the 5-star that's awesome is going to play tackle, and they didn't go that route out of respect, but I think he was ready to start at tackle for them last year. They played him at guard, so I can't wait to see him at tackle this year. I think he's going to be fine. I think he has a very good chance of accelerating into being a top 15 pick with his kind of talent, but like you said, Trevor, we just have not gotten the opportunity to see that yet. So he was number 2 for me.
My number 2 guy is a guy that is not on your top 5. So we are continuing the trend of me having some guys in my top 5 that is not in your top 5. Who do you think it is?
Is it Zion?
No.
Okay, good.
No. We're gonna talk about Zion because I want to shout him out because you know what? I'm proud of Zion. I'm proud of Zion Nelson, and
He's gotten a lot better. Yes.
We'll break him down when we get outside the top 5. Number 2 for me is Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. Dude.
He was one of the guys that the door was open for him to be at 5. We'll get there why he wasn't.
6'6", 310 pounds, and yeah, feel free to piggyback after you hear my thoughts on him. 6'6", 310 pounds. So again, massive dude. Okay, 4-star offensive tackle prospect from Washington, D.C. area. He's a true junior who already has 1,000 snaps at left tackle to his name. So he's got a ton of experience. And I'm telling you guys, that shows up in his film. When you watch him play, he looks very in control at all times. That big body, it not only engulfs people the way that you think that it would, but he's able to mirror people, man. He's able to take stunts and games and twists and just like play off of it perfectly. I was watching that Texas game specifically, and they were throwing a lot at him at the beginning of that game, and he was so calm, so poised, and I rarely see players that big with that big of frame be able to adjust to contact that they're not looking at head on. You know, you look at some of these guys, and if you get bumped one way or the other, they're so big. It's like, you know, like it's just like a building falling. Like it's almost like there's nothing you could do about it. It's going one way, or a tree, or whatever you want to use as an analogy. He's not like that. He takes contact very well. I think he's soft, and when he absorbs different contact, he knows how to control it. Man, I think that all of that stuff, it just does not faze him at all. And I think you can tell by the reps, the experience, he's using that all to his advantage. You want him to be a bit stronger with his size, but I'll say reportedly he's hit the gym really hard over this offseason. He knew that that's exactly what he needed to work on to get better. I watched a couple interviews of his where one of the questions that was asked of him was, if you could go back, now that you've got all of this time starting at Oklahoma, if you could go back and tell your freshman self something, what would it be? And he kind of laughed and he said, I'd be a lot more serious about getting in the weight room and getting stronger a lot sooner. Because he said, he's like, if I had my mentality that I have now back when I was a freshman, he's like, my tape would even look even better. Like I'd be a lot further along. So I think that that's the big weakness for him, is that there's not as much of a strength profile to his game as you would want for a guy who's 6'6". I'll also say, though he is 6'6", I feel like he doesn't typically have like the arm length of a player who's 6'6", which I never exactly know how to judge that because I'm watching game film. I'm not like seeing his measurable numbers.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a guessing game.
Right. Maybe it would come out that his arms are perfectly fine. He's just got to use them a little bit better. But I feel like he lost the arm length battle way more than I thought for a player with his overall height. For a bigger player, obviously, like he's not as smooth of a mover as some of these other players when it comes to just like covering a ton of ground. But I really, that's almost kind of nitpicking for him because I do think that he's a really good athlete for his size. I was just so pleased with how poised this player was, how good he was at getting his hands on guys. Like I mentioned, how great he was at like redirecting contact if it was coming from his outside shoulder or his inside shoulder, whatever. He was able to kind of center it, throw it one way or the other. I just felt like he never panicked at all. The strength profile in his game, I think, is something that he definitely needs to work on, but I've read that it is getting better. So him being number 2 on my list is me buying into him being stronger overall, because if we get that, this is a really damn good offensive tackle prospect. And that's kind of where I am. And that's me planting my flag on him right there.
It's going to be interesting to see how he does with the transitioning of that program right now. Obviously in a spot where, you know, there's a lot of change going on there and how he handles that. I'm not saying he will handle it poorly or anything like that. It's just interesting for a player that you kind of outlined it, Trevor. There's very key things there for him to work on, and he deserves the proper coaching and development by that staff. My concerns with him, I just thought he was far away physically, and you kind of said that he just needs to get stronger. I didn't think there was a lot of forcefulness in his hands when he threw his hands, and I think that he just didn't play a very violent brand of football at the position, but I also think that when he gets beat in pass pro, he wasn't an elite mover, in my opinion, where he can make up for that lack of forcefulness in his hands. So he's interesting because he's somebody that can make a big jump this year. He's already started a full season. He started a lot of games. I just thought he was a little bit far away. I thought he was getting beat a lot in that conference, and I thought his anchor was a bit of an issue with that. So I think that I really want to see him dominate in that conference before I'm super high on him.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. This was definitely my projection.
The projection pick.
Kind of fell in love with the good parts of the tape.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kind of had him as high as I did. So who's your number 1?
I mean, you want to talk about projection. My number 1's Broderick Jones.
Okay,
so
yeah.
This is
process of elimination. I figured.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about projection. A guy that didn't even play, I think, 500 snaps last year. So
yep.
Now, whether that's right or wrong is another conversation. They won the national title, so I guess they can't be wrong. It's impossibly wrong when you win the championship.
Yeah, but they didn't win the SEC title, you know?
Damn.
I'm kind of a little wrong.
This dude should be a stud. If he comes out, if he's ready to come out after this year, then so be it. If not, give him 2 years. He's a redshirt sophomore. You kind of highlighted it when you had him at 4. He looks incredible. Yeah. Honestly, 6'4", 315, muscled up, incredible, perfect tackle build, former 5-star. He made multiple starts at left tackle for their championship team when Jamari Salyer got hurt. So this dude has played in big-time games against big-time competition, and he's played at a high level. There's a play that, and I feel bad for the audience, I would love to tell you to go back and watch it, but you ironically can't. It's on the coach's film, but for some reason, the broadcast of the game missed it because I wanted to go back and make it a GIF on the broadcast. Obviously, if you guys haven't noticed, Trevor and I don't post coaches' film for a lot of reasons we're not going to get into. Yeah, so it doesn't exist. They're going back to show like highlights of another game, and they come back and the play is ending. There's a play against Vanderbilt. It's Vanderbilt.
I didn't watch the Vandy game.
He blocks a defender into the kicking net on the sideline. He takes the defender and he takes him all the way to the sideline, and just when you think he's going to stop, he takes him into the kicking net of the sideline.
Finish through the whistle. Finish through the kicking net, baby.
Needless to say, he's got a lot of nasty in him. He's got what I would call cannonball power. He's the best run blocker at tackle in this class. He's doing it as a sophomore in the SEC, and I mean, it's incredible to watch. Now, another thing I really liked when you look at the pass pro, his reset strength is excellent. There are so many times where a guy throws his first move, and he's young. He's a sophomore. He didn't come into the season as a starter, so he's kind of thrown out there into the fire. The first move might kind of work, and his reset strength is, my feet are in the ground and you are not moving me another inch. Where there's so many times where so many tackles would be beaten and the quarterback would get demolished. But with him, his ability to reset, which was something I loved about, I think Charles Cross last year was the guy I'm thinking of. It really matters a lot. So Broderick
Cross was excellent at that. He was excellent at that.
That's who I thought of with this. This dude is just a different animal as a run blocker. Once again, there's a limited sample size. You got to watch his starts to really get the full picture, but I'm projecting this guy to be a star. And once again, maybe it's not to the point where he's like, okay, I'm going to declare after 1 year at Georgia and go be whatever they're projecting me as. Maybe it's 2 years away because he is so young. This is a little bit Arik Gilbert-ish of me. Like, you had him as the number 1 tight end, and you're like, I think he's going to be a star. I think Broderick, we haven't seen a ton, but I think he's going to be a star. I think he has all the makings to be a powerhouse tackle that goes in the top 10 of the draft and is a franchise cornerstone for a team on the offensive line for a very long time.
If he plays a full healthy year this year, I have a very hard time thinking that he's not going to go pro. I have a very hard time believing that.
It's just all there.
Right.
I mean, and it's been there since high school, but when you got to see it on the field last year for a championship team, it's like, I love the way this dude plays. Like, there's times where he doesn't come in the game. He's already in the game. They're winning 55-0, and he's blocking like they're down a touchdown, and this drive is deciding if the game goes into overtime or not. And that, to me, says so much about a player where it's like, man, you could just take your foot off the gas. But he loved being on the field. He loved being on the field, and it was like, I'm more talented than anybody else in the trenches right now. So I'm expecting a huge year for him, and I'd be lying. To watch him in Paris actually get to play at their real spots this year from the get-go, I think is what can make this tackle class be like, it's not like the previous years. If both those guys hit their potential with Skoronski, then you have another big three again at tackle.
If you're talking about Skoronski as the worst, and I've got Skoronski at number 1, you mentioned just how if the draft were tomorrow, you're
he's the guy.
I mean, look, some teams like to project off traits anyways. You know, if Jacksonville's picking at number 1, they're probably picking Broderick Jones anyways. But I mean, like
Trayvon Walker dig at the end of June.
He is so. Peter Skoronski is. There's just so much to like about his tape. We already talked about how kind of came in as interior offensive lineman, only played left tackle because he had to, and look at that, he's fantastic at it because he's just a damn good offensive lineman. There are a bunch of prospects that'll come through. Well, I don't want to say a bunch, but there are a handful of guys I would say over the last 3 or 4 years where you just go, that dude was born to play O-line, and he just gets it. Like, those players just get it along the offensive line. Peter Skoronski is one of those players. So 4/5-star, give a little bit more background on 4/5-star offensive tackle from Park Ridge, Illinois. Picked the Wildcats over Notre Dame, Michigan, Penn State. He was the first 5-star, depending on which recruiting site you used, that in Northwestern's history that they were able to get, which is pretty cool. How about this, Connor? His grandfather, Bob Skoronski, was a starting lineman and captain for all 5 of Vince Lombardi's NFL championships with the Green Bay Packers.
That's insane.
His dad, Bob Jr., played defensive line at Yale, so he's got the football background with his dad, too. Made it to the 2020 freshman All-American team and the All-Big Ten team when he was starting at left tackle following Rashawn Slater opting out. Only give up 2 sacks and over 600 snaps as a true freshman. Pretty crazy. Strengths and weaknesses. A lot of the same things you said already. Smart and steady left tackle who comes with plenty of experience. Feels in control once he gets his hands engaged. Knows how to angle his leverage and his aiming points really well to control defensive linemen once they get between his shoulders. Kick slide is fast and the feet are nimble, which is what you want to see from a player who's sub 300. You got to see it, but you do see it. Love how wide and comfortable the base is. Shows the good flexibility there. Will absolutely finish through the whistle. From his coaches, his best qualities are, this is from his that I was reading about from his coaches. Best qualities, work ethic, passion, high IQ for the position. They can put him at any spot on the offensive line. He's going to thrive. Now, the weaknesses, you mentioned these as well. Lighter weight proves to be an issue when he's dealing with strength. He can get bull rushed right into the quarterback's lap on occasion. On the flip side, at his lighter weight, he does move well, but his size and his strides aren't long enough to be super reliable against the fastest kind of speed rushers that you're going to see to the outside shoulder. Arm length can also get him in trouble against some of the more physically gifted pass rushers that you're going up against. Item number 1, because his tape's the best.
Yep.
As of right
now, I will not argue against you.
But this is for me, I know Anton Harrison isn't as high for you. For me, this was a really intriguing top 5 players because I don't think any of them are really near their ceiling yet. Maybe Skoronski is. That's why he's at the top by default because he got the highest floor. But that floor as an offensive tackle is going to be top 5 in this class. So it's going to be somewhere along the order, whether it's number 1, whether it's number 3 or 4, or whatever it is, he's going to be in that top 5. Those other guys, Freeland, Paris Johnson Jr., and Broderick Jones, all of these guys to me have crazy potential of what could be this upcoming year. And it's not the strongest offensive tackle class right now, or should I say it's not the most proven, but there is a lot of talent there to, like you said before, if these guys hit, we're talking about a really nice offensive tackle class within the top 50 picks.
I agree. I think it's, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of last year. Like, we knew Evan Neal was probably going to be a top 10 pick, right? We did not know Ike Ekwonu would have that kind of rise.
No, it's true.
To be fair to him. So
Charles Cross as well. Charles Cross was viewed as like good.
Yeah.
But then he really turned out to be phenomenal at pass pro. So.
Yeah, like end of round 1, and he obviously went a lot higher because he had a great year. So I think there's context needed where it's like, man, feel good about Skoronski already. I don't think he's Evan Neal's caliber this time last year, but I think he's really good. Now, if one of Paris or Broderick pans out the way we think they will, then you have a good top 2 in the tackle class.
Right.
Which is, and like you said, there's guys that have room to grow. Like Anton Harrison has room to grow right there. And it goes back to the number 5 for me with Javon Foster. Like, he's an older player as a redshirt senior who didn't start till last year, but there's things technically that if he improves on, he could be a rock solid player and maybe have a chance, to start down the road in the NFL. Like I said, right now I don't see that, but yeah, solid tackle group and one that we're going to be watching very closely because is it safe to say they have the most to gain out of all the guys we've done so far? Not counting quarterback, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I would 100% agree because we know that the league is going to covet offensive tackles. They always do, and if these guys even prove that they have potential, like that they could be there, the NFL is going to want to get these guys on their team. So, no, I think that's absolutely fair. 2 guys I wanted to shout out outside of the top 5. We'll hear a couple from you as well if you want to highlight those guys before we flip over to interior offensive linemen. Zion Nelson, I mentioned it, from Miami. I wanted to shout this guy out, okay? 3-star offensive tackle from Sumner, South Carolina. Recruiting profile said he was 6'5", 240 pounds when he signed on to Miami. If you've heard the name Zion Nelson before, it's probably in a bad way. Nelson started all 13 of Miami's games as a true freshman and allowed the most sacks of any starting tackle from a Power 5 team that year. Nelson infamously graded a 0.0 in his first game against Florida, and the Miami's offensive line allowed 9 total sacks. The good news, though, since that time, he has seen his pass blocking grade take a leap from 46.8 in the first season to 78.7 in 2020 and then 85.3 last year. He has played some really good football, especially as of late. Within the last, final 5 games, he only allowed 2 total pressure. So now I mentioned he was 6'5", 240 pounds when he got to Miami. Now he's 6'5", 315 pounds. So he's carrying a lot more weight to him. I really like the pass protection, man.
Me too.
He was really good in pass protection. Now, he's got to be stronger. He's got to be way stronger, both in pass protection and especially in the run game. He's got to get more beef to him. But when you take all that into context, that he was starting just absolutely thrown to the flames. He was 6'5", 240 pounds, and they started this guy 6 months later against the Florida Gators in week 1. Okay, like that's just crazy. Nobody was going to succeed in those kinds of environments. And you see the steady increase in production over the last couple of years. I really do believe that he's developed into a very nice offensive tackle prospect. Want to see more strength from him, but that was good there. And then another guy, Trevor Reed, the offensive tackle from Louisville. What's the measurements here? 6'5", 305 pounds. He's another athlete guy, very athletic. There's even videos of him doing backflips at 300 pounds. That's how athletic we're talking about here. And he moves out of his stance very, very well. He's just too much finesse. It's kind of the same thing as Ian Nelson right now. Better in pass protection than he is in run blocking. He's just got to get more power to his profile, whether it's gaining weight because he's only 305 pounds or just hitting the weight room, whatever it is. I don't know. But he's just got to get stronger. So those are 2 guys that I wanted to shout out for sure.
For sure, yeah. There was, a couple guys that I got to see some of, but I just wasn't comfortable, along with Harrison, having them in the top 5, but they easily could be if you try to project them, like a Jalen Duncan on Maryland. We've seen a lot of Connor Galvin play for Baylor. He's somebody that is probably going to get a good run at the Shrine or Senior Bowl kind of circuit. And then Darnell Wright from Tennessee is a really interesting player as well. He was a former big-time recruit, 5-star recruit that kind of settled in last year. So, all right, let's get into the interior.
Before we get to that, I do have an ad read. I have to keep the podcast lights on. I have to.
Yes, they will. The camera will shut off.
Right, it'll shut out if I don't get to this ad read. Gentlemen, talking to you out there. All men strive for gold in their life, right? Gold medals, gold watches, gold everything. However, there is a certain type of man who goes the extra mile. He walks with the confidence of an eagle and giggles in the face of danger. He is a big, hairless, winning machine. And when he unzips his pants, he sees platinum. That is right. Manscaped would like to introduce you to their best and biggest ultimate hygiene bundle yet, the Platinum Package 4.0. Manscaped is the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Now trust them with the whole shebang. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using the promo code PFF. Manscaped's brand new Platinum Package 4.0 is the biggest bundle they've ever offered, giving you a bulk discount on Manscaped's top products. 20% off and free shipping using the promo code PFF at manscaped.com. It's time you enjoy the finer things in life and get yourself a Platinum Package for your Platinum Package. That's right. All right, let's get into the interior offensive lineman now that the camera and the lights are not going to shut off on me. Connor, I guess we got to go a little bit faster on these interior offensive linemen.
I'll do 5 through 3 and,
all right, that's fine.
And then 2 and 1.
I think that's probably appropriate for the class.
Yeah, and exactly. Okay, so 5, Jarrett Patterson, the center for Notre Dame. 4, Andrew Voorhees, I'm projecting him as a guard, but he plays tackle as well for USC, so he's on the interior list. And then 3 is John Michael Schmitz, the center from Minnesota.
Wait, who's 5 for you?
Jarrett Patterson.
Okay. Sorry.
Center for Notre Dame.
Okay.
It's everything okay?
No, yeah, I was just I was reading something, and then all of a sudden you got to number 4, and I was like, oh shoot.
Oh no, that happens. It happens, folks. It's hard sometimes. We're doing a lot of things. Sometimes you lose track of what
reading
your
and
co-host
listening
is saying.
Is tough.
It really is. Okay, so Patterson is a longtime starter at center for Notre Dame, and somebody that, realistically could have been in the draft last year, and I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, this is nuts.
There's a handful of these interior offensive linemen.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Like, I don't
really know what happened.
I think they're just enjoying college. He's a grad student, okay, and he's played good football for a long time. 6'4.5", 307. That's pretty big for a center. Team captain already. Has started since 2019. So we're talking about somebody that started since before the pandemic and was a team captain in 2021. Very intelligent, fundamentally sound. Can execute multiple blocks, cutting off defenders, reach blocking, drive blocking. Never the weak link on a play, which I really like to see from him. And that's a program where you get excellent coaching, excellent development. He is somebody that is an NFL caliber center that has done everything the right way. Is he the strongest guy, the most athletic guy? Is he like a Tyler Linderbaum, Cam Jurgens? He's not that kind of guy, but he's done a lot of things the right way for a long time at that program. So I liked him. And Andrew Voorhees was somebody that, I'm glad you and I both, without even talking to each other, evaluated him in the guard class because 6'6", 320. I don't know if he's actually 6'6", probably more 6'5", but that's what he's listed as.
Wow.
Redshirt senior at USC. I mean, hey, dating apps, you could use that, I guess.
I was going to say, just taking the shot at the Bumble profile.
Started at both left tackle and left guard in 2021. Thick downhill drive blocker. I thought his anchor gets tested against better teams. When you're a taller guy like that, that leverage is gonna happen sometimes. I didn't think he was like on the level of Elijah Vera Tucker that came out of there a couple years ago, but has given them that nice versatility of the left tackle, left guard spot. So Voorhees is another player that he would have been drafted if he declared last year. The third guy I'm really excited to talk about, and that's John Michael Schmitz, who honestly could end up being the top interior offensive lineman when all is said and done in this draft.
Wow.
He's built and plays like Frank Ragnow from Arkansas a couple years ago. That's been excellent for the Lions for a while. Burly center with guard-type power. I love watching this dude play. He's an ass kicker in the middle of the offensive line, and I'm a little confused why he didn't declare last year. I don't know how much his stock is really going to raise at Minnesota this year, but he's somebody I think will be a day 2 center pick in the draft. So those three, it's not the best interior class, but I thought John Michael Schmitz has a pretty clearly defined role as one of the big center teams that are big gap blocking teams, drive blocking teams that like bigger centers, which is less and less of the NFL as time goes on, will like John Michael Schmitz.
Man, I had him just outside. I had him at 6.
I mean,
I don't know if I just watched the wrong games or what, but I did not think that he was as strong as you are saying he is.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty nasty.
I think he moves really well. I think he fires off when he snaps the football. He could fire it off. He loves to get his hands up first. He loves to dictate the point of contact, and so that would make sense. What you're talking about of him having that strength profile to his game, I didn't see the strength as much of a strength, if you will, as you did.
So maybe why I went back to school to shut you up.
I hope he went back for more than that, because he could have done that by just, doing something else, making millions of dollars at the same time. But no,
NIL, baby. Everybody's making millions.
I thought he was a good player. I really did. He was one of those players who I was confused about of why he went back, because I thought he kind of proved a lot of what he needed to.
How high can your stock climb?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't.
So I don't see a chance of him working his way into round 1, but
no.
It's tough. I mean, hey, if you like college football, then stay. I don't care. Do whatever you like to do.
Sure. Hey, look, college, best time of your life, right?
Yeah.
I'm at number 5. I also had Jared Patterson. I kind of had him.
Okay.
And, John Michael
I didn't know if
Schmitz.
that would be a surprise one. I'm like, nobody talks about this guy.
No,
Why?
dude, he
started for like 8 years.
Right, and he's just steady, man. And
Yes, never the weak link.
You could pop on the tape and you go, okay, athletically limited. That's why he's a center, right?
Yes.
I mean, like he's not playing offensive tackle. Don't judge him as if he is. He's got help on both sides. He's a phone booth player.
Yes.
That's it. That's what it is. But he's steady. And he's not this guy who's going to be an absolute grizzly bear against you and absolutely bury you into the ground, but he's going to stay in front of you. He's going to get his hands in the right spot. He's going to sink his hips well. He's got a wide base. He just knows the position really, really well. So that's why I had him at number 5 there. Caleb Chandler, player from Louisville, redshirt senior. You said that you did not watch him, right?
No, I did not watch him.
I have him at number 4, 6'4", 300 pounds. I liked him. I mean, he is a
ringing endorsement.
No, but he's so like, I'm trying to
kidding.
find a way to say this because all Louisville tackles or like all Louisville offensive linemen feel this way. They're just these like long athletic offensive linemen. Whether you're playing tackle, whether you're playing on the interior. I mean, I know Mekhi Becton was the size of a planet, so it's a little bit different. But like that's what I had for him. He is an interior offensive lineman. That's Chandler, who does his best work when he is moving. When he's like trying to block in space, he's really great at lining people up. He's excited to block in space, zone blocking capabilities. He likes to play through the whistle. He really does. Weaknesses. Because I just said that his strengths are he's long and athletic. I mean, he doesn't have a ton of sand in the pants when he's anchoring. None of these totally exposed to it, but it's definitely something that takes him a couple more steps to stop guys in their tracks. Won't dominate the point of attack. He is more of a finesse interior offensive lineman that you're going to find. He's going to give you that plus length if that's something that you're into, and he likes blocking in space for the.
He'll give you plus length if that's something you're into.
If that's something you're into, I mean, you could also put that in the Bumble profile. I guess that's what we're going with. That's the theme of the interior offensive lineman. But he's just a different brand, right? And I think that's why I was a little hesitant of like how I was going to intro him, because when you turn on interior offensive lineman, you want to see. I mean, you want to see Cooper Beebe, right? We haven't talked about him.
There we go.
You haven't talked about him yet because he's in our top two, understandably so. But like this, you want to see this like burly, giant chested, like sort of short arms, but like stocky dudes who are getting in your face, all like power, like
it's just sweat pouring off them, like borderline spit coming out of their mouth after every block.
And that's just not Caleb Chandler. Like he's not built that way, so it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different to explain. You got to look at him in a little bit different way. Number 3 for me, Layden Robinson, the Texas A&M redshirt junior. There, I saw you post a clip on Twitter of him absolutely burying someone. I think it was in the Missouri game. 6'4", 320 pounds. Dude's a true power blocker. I mean, you put it right in the tweet, man. I mean, like this dude will absolutely bury your ass if you give him the opportunity to. Wants to erase every single defensive player who gets in his way. Great mentality for the position, right? I talked about those players that you want to see when you turn on interior offensive lineman. That's this guy. I think he's got good eyes for extra work. He's got a good, strong base to him. Weakness, I don't think he's the most nimble offensive lineman. He's clearly a more power guy than a finesse guy. Hands can be a little bit low and slow. I think that for whatever reason, he just keeps the hands a little bit lower. Hand placement's a little bit stylistic with some of these guys, and so I don't like to harp on it too much unless I see it kind of getting in the way of really getting your hands where they need to when the defensive lineman's trying to extend their arms. And I feel like I saw that a little bit with Robinson. So that's why I kind of noted it there. So I thought the hands were a little bit low and slow with him. Where was I? A little reckless at times when it comes to run blocking because he absolutely just wants to erase people off the planet. So he gets a little bit reckless, but big, powerful, interior offensive lineman. I think he brings a lot to the table, and I do like his skill set, so that's why I had him at number 3.
Okay, so 2 and 1 for me, I'll group together here because I think that they're not that far apart, and you already talked about one of them. So 2 for me is Cooper Beebe. I mean, he's another guy that has been playing tackle. You could easily see the build to play guard, the projection to play guard, and he's played a lot of good football. I would say this is the Skoronski of the interior class, where it's like, man, if the draft was today, I've kind of seen it all from this guy. He started all of 2021 at left tackle. He's also played guard and right tackle. Very disciplined player that does not lose a lot of reps. Thought he was very athletic for that build. He does have that burly build, but I thought he was very, very athletic. Doesn't really get beat very often.
Nope.
He has very clean film, honestly. Very, very clean film. I think with him, I wish it's just such a stupid, annoying thing to say, but I just kind of wish he played in the SEC or the Big Ten because I would like to see him be challenged more. It was kind of boring watching his film.
It was definitely boring watching his film. That's a really
He just hasn't had a lot of challenges, and maybe that's a great sign of the player, to be fair to him. It's good that he has not really had those moments to be challenged. I know he has consistently graded out very highly at PFF, and justifiably so after watching the film, because he does not really get beat, once again, in pass pro very often. He moves very well, and he does everything asked of him as a run blocker. So my number one guy, you already talked about in Layden Robinson.
Oh, you got Layden at 1?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, you're right. There are things that he needs to work on. He's a little reckless. He's a little out of control. There is projecting here. But if you want to find a guy that can be an all-pro, I'll say Pro Bowl caliber
Nah, you say
NFL
Hall
guard.
of Fame.
Hall of Fame, the greatest to ever play the position.
If you're looking for a guy to be the greatest to ever play the position, he brings you the profile.
He kind of was like watching peak Trey Turner on times at film, where you're right. Like his best is the best
people.
From the interior offense. Like he's an eraser, and it's pretty wild. Correct. He had a 21.4% impact run blocking rate. That means more than 1 out of every 5 run blocking reps he has. He's killing people. Like he's making a difference on the play. He's not just a part of the play. Plays well beyond the whistle. He wears guys out in the SEC. Like wears them out where they're just like, I'm sick of this dude. Get away from me. Legit climbing speed, considering his girthy tree trunk build. I was impressed how quick he can get to the second level, latch onto a linebacker, and take them out of the play, where Spiller is just like, cool, free 10 yards. Now I got to beat the safety.
Yeah, right.
Over and over again.
There were a lot of instances like that. You were right.
He's often the first one off the ball. Very good quickness off the ball. Obviously plays close to the ball, playing right guard, but still, I thought he looked very quick for that weight he's carrying. Spatial awareness in pass pro is a work in progress. He does not pick up stunts and twists. He sometimes is just not aware. Like if the rusher is not directly in front of him and he's like, you're my... He struggles. He struggles a little bit. He's just not quick twitch, peripheral vision.
He looks like his eyes are moving. He just doesn't anticipate it as well as he could.
Yes.
That's all it is.
He's
just
reacting,
late looking. Yeah.
Yeah, he's reacting, not pre-snap aware.
Mm-hmm.
So like when it happens, he's like, oh shit. But like it's not like when you watch BB, for instance, who is not as physically imposing as him, but is cleaner in pass protection, is just... And once again, some of these guys have played more than others or are playing a different level of competition. There are things here to take into account, but I liked what I saw from BB and Robinson a lot, where I'm like, okay, these guys are starting NFL caliber guards, where I didn't see a lot of guys like that in this class. I was a little disappointed, and maybe more develop along the way. One name I'll throw out here before you get to your top 2 that's a really intriguing guy is Osiris Torrance, who's transferring from Louisiana to Florida. But overall, it wasn't a guard class where I walked away and I was like, oh man, there's a lot of guys to get through here. So I'm hoping that a lot of surprise players have a big time season.
I don't know about a lot. You're right. I think my top 3 guys, Layden Robinson. I have Cooper Beebe as my number 2 guy.
Number 1?
Dude, I have Andrew Voorhees as my number 1 guy.
Okay. I mean,
he was awesome. He was. Yeah. You talk about getting bored watching tape. I don't know if I got bored watching tape. I think I got excited watching this guy's tape because I felt like he showed me everything that I wanted to see at the guard spot. I didn't watch any of his tackle tape because I think he's going to be a guard. So I only watched his guard tape, and I thought he was fantastic, man. I'll just go down the strengths and weaknesses. I wrote it in here. This is one of the easiest evals I'll do all summer, I think. Just good football player. That's it. He has his assignment. He's an offensive guard, and I think he's damn good at it. He's the only returning offensive lineman in the country to earn a run blocking and pass blocking grade above 90. Each are above 90. So he graded out as an elite pass blocker and run blocker last year. No idea why he returned. No idea. The guy would have been in.
Well, clearly the advisory was like, dude.
I think he should have been a second round pick if he left last year. And times haven't been great at USC. He talks about how much he loves USC, how much he's loved being there. Perhaps he wants 1 year of Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, and to really see what happens with the USC program, to see if they can win a Pac-12 title and make some noise in the College World Playoff. Maybe that's really what he wants, but I truly thought he would have been an automatic day 2 pick last year. Voorhees' build, athletic ability, technique, and clear experience make him a really clean prospect to me. I think he would have been a day 2 pick last year. There's no reason to think that he would be anything less after another year of stellar play. And he's got a great wide base, good footwork when climbing and mirroring, always looking for extra work, finishing through the whistle, reliable hand placement, constantly keeps defenders in between his shoulders for maximum grip, leverage, and power. I just think he understood how to play the position so well. I hope they keep him there for the entire year. I hope he gets as much reps as possible at that guard spot, because if they do, we're going to see some really damn good tape. And I agree with all the stuff that you said about Cooper Beebe. He's fantastic as well. Former defensive tackle. I did want to make sure everybody knew. He played defensive tackle in high school, flips over to the offensive side of the ball when he came over to Kansas State. He's played on the interior. He's played offensive tackle, and just another guy who I think understands it really well. So, yeah, there we go.
I'll say for Voorhees, I know I said, maybe he didn't get the advisory situation. Lincoln Riley did get that job in November, so there was plenty of time to convince guys to stay.
Right.
I'll do some digging on that. I'll find out. I'll try to find out if he stayed. If we could find out. I don't think we'll find out his round grade, unless it was a really good one.
No, I mean, clearly, like if he got a first round grade, he's leaving. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so clearly he didn't get that.
Bonkers.
But I was really impressed with his film. I really was. And so he was, I don't want to say pretty easily, because BB's film was also very good.
Very good.
Those three interior offensive linemen, I have faith in they can be top 75 picks. Like, those dudes can be anywhere from round 1, 2, and 3. Like, I think that those guys have that kind of talent level. Maybe even get them all as, I don't want to say top 50, because then you're sneaking 2 of them in the first round, and I'm not so sure that that's going to happen. But I'm excited. I like these 3 guys. I like those 3 guys. I like Robinson. I like BB, and I like Voorhees. So those are my top 3 guys when it comes to this class.
So that closes the book on the offense for the summer. It's kind of wild to think we, in our brains, and for the listeners of the show, have like a full painted picture without the breakouts, because we can't predict the future on the spot as much as we tell you we can.
Well, we can, but we just don't like to.
We just don't like to do that.
We don't want to get the government involved. If you guys start betting on it, then they're gonna.
Good point. We want to keep that to ourselves,
right?
As we sit here in our gold hills and coins.
We bet strategically.
So yeah, that's the offensive picture for this draft, and you can kind of see we might have a big bounce back quarterback year. We have a star running back. Wide receivers pretty good at the top again. And tight end is very, very good for tight end.
Yep.
And then you saw offensive line today, where it's, we're waiting to see what some strides a couple top guys can make, but it can be a decent tackle class at the top with an offensive line class in the interior that, leaves a little to be desired, but there are a few guys that we got through.
I agree. And you look at last year, you look at, okay, well, there wasn't anybody earth-shattering last year either. You had Zion Johnson, you had Kenyon Green, right? Who's to say that this class can't be, maybe not, we're not talking about like 2 top 20 picks, but guys that are picked in the top 50, right? I think they'll be considered there. And then the offensive tackle class we mentioned has so much potential. The quarterbacks are definitely going to, once again, own the offensive side of the ball with all the players that we mentioned, how they might be able to pan out. You got guys like Tyler Van Dyke, guys like Will Levis, guys like Anthony Richardson, who have still so much that they can prove, and they can get even better and improve their stock. And that's outside of 2 guys who have already had really good tape in Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. So fun year on the offensive side of the ball. I'm excited to flip the page to get over to defense. Before we get to that, of course, we've got a mock draft Monday episode for you. Are we doing the NFL Street idea?
Let's fire away.
Okay, all right. So one idea that we had at the beginning of the summer was we wanted to have a dueling draft against each other, essentially drafting NFL Street style, meaning we're drafting 11 players, and those 11 players have to play both sides of the football. So that's how it's going to go. I cannot wait for this one. There's so much strategy. There's going to be so much heat involved with every single pick, because you got to be picking guys that you think can play on the offensive side, on the defensive side. Like, are you drafting the quarterback? Were you then playing him on defense? What are you going to do here and there? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back and forth draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, you guys have to decide who wins for us.
On 4th of July, nonetheless. We're not taking off. We're not leaving you. We got our vacations done. On 4th of July, that episode will drop. It's going to be a really fun one. It's something you and I have actually discussed for months. But
you've been waiting to get to this one.
I really have. And I've done 0 preparation for it, which is great.
You got time.
Plenty of time. I'm sure somebody will make the teams in NFL Street and they'll simulate it, and I'll lose for the third
That's
time in a
what
row.
we need. I actually have NFL Street here at the house, but it's only 7-on-7, so maybe we'll have to choose. But we've had people who have been simulating our drafts in Madden, which, by the way, somebody put our position groups into teams in Madden.
Oh, no, it's rigged.
And you got absolutely smoked, my guy. It was like 48-27.
Yeah, Josh Allen threw like 7 picks. It was Madden 2019 or something like that. It's very interesting how there's never screenshots of box scores. Like when I lost and Jamar Chase wasn't in the box score on the under 25 team. So I'm
very interesting.
Yeah, okay, sure.
We'll have to do that somehow, some way.
Some funky business is going on with these things. So if I lose the NFL Street simulation, I'm out. I quit. So,
all right, this is a WWE Connor Rogers I quit match.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh man, wow, good callback right there with the microphone.
Well,
I have one right here.
You gotta sell like that. All right, we will see you guys on Monday. It'll be a fun mock draft Monday episode. Get ready for it. I'm Trevor. That's Connor. We'll see you guys then.